Welcome to the podcast. It's the magical holidays. Time for Joe watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. Why, you might ask? Because it sounds like a crazy task to be watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. It'll be struggle, no I won't lie. By the halfway point I will lose my mind, but with your support I'm gonna be fine. So let's have a blast on this Christmas time. Join me now and let's find out about today's Christmas movie. Was it good or bad? Happy or sad? Is there another dead mom and dad? Let's get to it with no delay. It's your old pal Joe and he's happy to say welcome to Joe watches 60 Christmas movies in 60 days.
How's it going, everybody? It's me, it's your old pal Joe, and welcome to episode 39 of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. I don't have a lot of preamble. I don't want to talk a lot more. I have a lot of stuff I have to do today. So let's just jump right into today's mention of our good friends over at Third Eye Comics. Third Eye Comics, your home for graphic novels, gaming equipment, and games themselves, music, movies, and more. If you need anything for this upcoming holiday season, I bequeath you to stop over at shop.thirdeyecomics.com. And if you do purchase something and there's an opportunity to let them know, please let them know you're supporting me, because they... No. You're supporting... No. Joe, you have a good... use it. You're supporting them because they are supporting me. There, that's it. That's it right there. That's the one. Now, if I wrote this down, I could remember it easier. But guess what I don't do? Write it down. That's why it's so smooth every single time. In any case, it's time to talk about today's movie, Designing Christmas with You. I wrote in my notes when I watched this movie, I'm really tired and really sad. Let's watch another movie. I don't remember why I was feeling so down, but I assure you that is accurate. We open with our main character, Colbie, in the office talking to a client about some designs for their home. Her boss needs to talk to her. There's a major client who requested Colbie specifically, Eloise Chapman. You mean from the Chapman House? Yeah, that Eloise Chapman. They want you to decorate her house. It's like a manor, a big thing that they would have special events in. They want you to decorate the house for the Holly Ball, their big annual charity ball. The only catch is you'll have to work through Christmas. Colbie doesn't care about the catch. She's in. She's beyond excited. Cut to her updating her sister. Her sister is decorating a giant gingerbread house. And looking back, I watched this movie a few days ago. Looking back, I don't remember her sister being a big part of this movie. But I think we'll see. It's one of those things as you're introduced to characters, you don't know how often they're going to appear. You don't know how important they are at the beginning. But then in retrospect, I don't think her sister mattered much to the story. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's find out. Oh, the next line of my notes. I took an hour break 3 minutes into the movie. Anyway, Colbie, the sister explains the gingerbread house is her daughter's school project. And I thought that's insane because it's so big and she's doing it, not her daughter. Colbie heads into a Christmas Village deal. They have a game where you can throw snowballs to hit a bell. If you hit the bell, you get a prize. On her third throw, she hits a handsome dude. He laughs it off and gives her advice on how to throw. She's immediately into him. She hits a bell on her first try. She gets a Snow White bell as her prize. It's a Snow White bear, not bell. She gets a bear, and anyway, she says her niece is going to love it. The guy starts to make his move, but then Colbie's sister walks up and interrupts him. And I'm like, why did that stop him? I don't know. You don't know if you're ever going to see this woman again, and you're interested enough to make a move. Why would that stop you? Cut to Colbie and her sister chatting it up over coffee. Her sister wants to know who that guy was. Well, guess what? I bet Colbie does too. You're just getting in the way, sister. Colbie plays it off. It was just some guy she hit with a snowball. The sister's name is Gemma. Well, at that point, you could tell I thought the sister was going to play a significant part of this movie because I looked up her name. Colbie heads off to the Chapman house for this big project. Eloise Chapman, it's an older woman, shows her around and even introduces her to the estate manager. It's the handsome bloke from the Christmas market, and his name is Ben. So to get the details of the job, her job is to decorate the property for the Christmas Holly Ball and come up with the whole theme. She's worked for a designing firm. Her job is to come up with the theme and implement the theme for the Holly Ball. She also is supposed to work with Ben since he's the caretaker for the property, the estate manager, if you will. Ben gives her a tour of the property. We find out that the ball is going to raise money for a local children's hospital. Colbie asks why Eloise Chapman requested her specifically. Ben isn't sure, but to be perfectly honest, his suspicion is the previous designers they used weren't available. Colbie appreciates his honesty. Eventually, the two of them talk about potential ideas for how the place would be decorated, and we get the first rift between the two. Ben would like some input, but Colbie wants to handle it all on her own. And this is a recurring theme in this movie with these two characters, where Ben just wants to have a say because of his history with the property. And Colbie's like, no, I was promised complete control over the design, and I don't want you involved. She doesn't say it that aggressively, but that's the gist. We cut to Colbie back at work. Her boss stops by to say that Eloise Chapman is happy with Colbie so far. Nothing has happened. She has met her for 5 minutes. All she has done is passed her off to the estate manager. Anyway, she's happy with Colbie so far, and it really helps Colbie's case for getting a promotion to partner, which may or may not happen by the end of the movie. Later, Ben and Eloise Chapman catch up. He asks why she chose Colbie to design the ball. Her work is just so different from what we've used in the past. Eloise says she knows that's why she chose her. She thinks it's time for a change. Ben, though, doesn't seem so sure. When Eloise leaves, we see Ben is filling out an application for another estate management position. Oh no, is Ben leaving the FAMOUS Chapman House? Cut to Colbie decorating cookies with her sister. She complains a lot about Ben. She says she really liked him. They even had sparks, but now he has his own ideas. And I write in my notes, I have no idea what her problem is with him. Back over to the Chapman house, Ben is up late reading in the kitchen when Eloise Chapman stops by. They chat a bit about some woman named Layla who was surprisingly on her way back from London. Ben is surprised to hear about this. Back over to Colbie. She's doing some research on the Chapman house and sees someone she might know in an old photo. Could that be her grandma? She sends a photo of the photo to her mom, and her mom agrees. That could be her at one of the old Holly balls. A new day has begun. Colbie hears from her boss that a local newspaper, The Chronicle, wants to cover the creation of that year's Holly ball. They're going to interview Colbie. She's very excited. It's also really good press for the firm. Just then, Colbie reads some of the ideas Ben had and loses it. Cut to her confronting him, saying it goes against everything she thinks Eloise wants. He says it has to be perfect because it's the last, and then he catches himself. What he means to say, what he doesn't say, is it's going to be the last Holly ball he participates in before he leaves. On the other hand, Colbie says it's important they choose a strong theme because there seems to be a correlation between the strong theme and more donations. And from what she's learned, the Chapman House hasn't been doing as well as they need to be. This is news to Ben. She shows him some documentation. He had no idea the Chapman House was struggling as much as it is. I like that she went back in time and read the previous themes. Like, she read the documentation. Well, in 2020, the theme was the future of Christmas, and they barely got any donations. But 2022, the theme was Christmas in your heart, and they got a bunch of donations. And somehow she's supposed to go, well, one of those was obviously a much stronger theme than the other. So she's not only deducing which ones are strong versus not strong, she's then deriving in her head a correlation between that and the money that they raised. Anyway, this is the struggling financially is the reason that she thinks Eloise hired her to shake things up. Ben now understands. They agree to work together. Cut to them out and about. She wants them to look for items that inspire them. They go to a Christmas market. Then anyway, we'll find some items that inspire us, and then we'll create a mood board. First stop is a stall selling wrapping paper. They each point to their favorite. They're very different types of paper, but Colbie is rolling with it. They get samples of each. Next up is a candy stall. They each pick their favorite. Ben picks a candy cane. Colbie picks some marshmallows. They each get some. They get some of each. Next is a candle stall. They pick the same candle though. They eventually get back to the Chapman house. They each want to talk to Eloise, but she's busy. She does this in an odd way, like she's distracted. Colbie notes she's behaving oddly. Ben says he hasn't noticed. Colbie points out how now he's acting oddly. He eventually cops to it and admits he's applied for another job. He's having second thoughts now, though, that he's heard about the struggles of the Chapman house. We learn that the place he was applying to is where his parents met. Eventually, this winds around to him asking if Colbie is single. She is, but then she changes the subject and gets them crafting. They're doing some sort of crafts and chatting about their lives. She mentions how she has to cook for the family this year for their big family Christmas, but she's not Christmas dinner. But she's not very good at it. He is very good at cooking and offers to help if she plays her cards right. Eventually, she's happy with what she's done and shows it to him. It's a literal board with the elements that they picked up glued to it. She says, we have our theme, vintage Christmas with nods to the past and lots of layered textures. I would say a vintage Christmas would inherently have nods to the past, but that is how she described it. Colbie heads out for the day and Ben checks his phone. He missed a call from the mysterious Layla. Cut to Colbie and Ben going shopping for a Christmas tree. They're in a real tree farm. It's dark out. I don't know why they went when it's dark out. And it's very snowy. Ben is carrying a real gas lantern. Why are they looking for trees now? Just wait till the next morning. They talk more about their lives. We find out Colbie had a boyfriend who she thought was going to propose. Instead, he told her he had a job offer in Denver and moved the very next week. Now that she thinks about it, she doesn't think he was the guy for her. They were together for almost 2 years. They broke up last Christmas. Eventually, they wander under some mistletoe. They agree they shouldn't kiss. Cut to them bringing a tree back to the house. They discuss what to put on top of the tree. He wants a star. She wants an angel. He quickly folds and says he's cool with an angel too. She has to go because it's the night she has to cook for her family. He offers to help her. Cut to her family arriving at her place while she and Ben are still preparing dinner. Everyone assumes they're together or going to be together and invite him to stay. Because he's like, I don't want to impose, and everybody's like, oh no, do you think there's something going on? Oh no, Ben, you should join us. You should join us. We get some quick shots of the dinner and then it's over. Colbie thanks Ben for his help. They make plans for work the next day. There's lots of quiet moments where they're silent and act like they want to kiss. They do not. He heads home. But also text her to say that he was honored to be a part of her family's dinner. We see them both about to send something earnest like, hey, if you get the job, you'll be missed, or I'll miss you. But both delete what they were going to write and send something more general. They're very into each other. The next day, Ben has his big job interview. Eloise overhears him during the meeting and makes a face like she's not happy. And then that's also when you find out the job is in Italy. I believe it was Tuscany, but I could be wrong. Eventually, Colbie arrives and they do a bunch of decorating. Back to work. Eloise walks through and loves what Colbie has done. Colbie admits that it's a bit different than what they've done in the past. Eloise says that's why they hired her. This, for some reason, causes Colbie to start to ask why she chose her, as if that hasn't already been covered. But Eloise is called away before she can, say the same thing again. We get a scene where Colbie is decorating a tree and singing very prettily, if that is indeed a word. And Ben walks in and she's embarrassed to be heard singing. If this was really the actress, whoever it was, had a really nice voice, and it's not played into at all the rest of the movie. When they have a character sing a little bit to themselves, and they don't realize someone's listening, and then they get caught, almost certainly there's going to be a scene later on where they sing. Maybe they're pushed into singing, or they sing as part of a choir. There's a thing. And no, this woman just has an incredible singing voice, and it never comes up again. Now it's time for the journalist to come to interview Colbie. We see bits of interviews with Ben and Colbie. Some of the questions are about who drove the ideas and style. The journalist seems to want Ben to say it was all his idea. He says it sort of was his idea, and then before he can continue, she says they have to wrap it up. We see her in her notebook. She's written Ben Thurston Vision, and that's his last name if you're wondering. Not Thurston Vision, just Thurston. Vision is her implication that it's his idea behind this decorating scheme. This might lead to problems later on. After their interviews, Ben asks Colbie if she'd like to get dinner. She sure would, but then someone is at the door. It's the mysterious Layla. She gives Ben a big hug and figures out Colbie is Colbie because her mom has told her so much about her. Eloise is her mom. She's Eloise Chapman's daughter of the famous Chapman House. She asked Ben to help her unload the car and also asked if he could bake her a special dish he always made. Ben is about to say he had plans with Colbie, but Colbie says, I just want to get out of your way. I'll get out of your hair, and leaves on her own. Later, after Ben and Layla eat, she tells him she can tell he has a crush on Colbie. He promises he does not, but says, I know you. We're basically brother and sister. She says, you're a great guy and you deserve to be happy. He changes the subject and asks what's going on with her. Well, Layla, she's gotten engaged. Everyone cheers for her. No, that's not true. He's so happy for her, though. Then he lingers looking at her ring for a bit, and Layla says, you really need to ask Colbie out. He admits that she's right. Cut to Ben calling a guy who owns an antique shop. He has an idea and needs his help to find something. We can see on his laptop he's looking at an old angel tree topper. Now over to Eloise looking through her old photo albums. She stops and takes note of the photo that might contain Colbie's grandmother. Then we get one of the most contrived bits I've seen this year. Layla is trying to prod Ben to tell Colbie his feelings for her. He's all like, what? How? Like this? And then he starts to talk as if he's talking to Colbie. You're so smart and beautiful and stuff like that. Well, guess what? Just then, Colbie walks up and thinks that he's talking to Layla. And then she walks away in tears. And I hated this part of the movie because it's so contrived. What do you mean? How would I tell her I like her? Like this? And then he just performs that. Anyway, after this discussion, Ben decides he does need, in fact, to tell Colbie how he feels. We see her sitting by herself very sad when Eloise walks in. She says a package just arrived. She sews off some of the stockings that Colbie got made. I don't know. Anyway, she finally admits she knew Colbie's grandmother. She talks about how her grandmother's ideas and generosity was what inspired her to mold the foundation behind the Chapman House the way she has. When she realized they were running into trouble, she figured her old friend's granddaughter might be able to help. Colbie is happy to hear this. Colbie leaves and Ben comes in right after her. He says, where's Colbie? And she's like, oh, you just missed her. And then he sees that in her sadness. He doesn't know that it's because of her sadness. She has discarded an idea that she had for like an archway, and he picks it up. He finally finds Colbie outside in the garden area. He has something to show her. She says she's too busy. He says, I need you to come, and he has her close her eyes. He takes her to the archway, and it looks just... Was this... Maybe that wasn't the idea he found, because he takes her to the finished archway, and it looks just like the things she sketched out. She's so touched. It must have taken him all night. Maybe it was the next day. Doesn't matter. We're moving on. Anyway, she loves it. Then we get another dumb scene where her boss reviews the work so far and thinks it's great, but there's one problem. The plan she got from Ben says there should be 6 rooms. Colbie's design only includes 5 rooms. Colbie says, well, I was told there was only 5. The boss is all, we can't have this happen. We can't have the integrity of this firm take a hit. You agreed to design 6 rooms. You must design 6 rooms. Colbie says she'll take care of it. Cut to Ben checking in on Colbie and finding out about the misunderstanding. He's confused as how this extra room came about. And then the article gets emailed to Colbie, and she sees it was written as if Ben had final say and chose the overall design. She is furious. Ben is confused as to how this misunderstanding could have happened. FYI, we are now 3 misunderstandings deep. There's the misunderstanding about the room, there's the misunderstanding about the article, and there's the misunderstanding about what Colbie overheard Ben saying to Layla. They start bickering, and Colbie asks if he's even told Eloise that he's leaving. Well, who should have walked in but Eloise? She sternly says that they can talk about this later. Cut to Colbie crying on her own when Layla walks in. She says this package arrived for her. It's this antique angel tree topper that Ben got for her. Now cut to Ben talking to Eloise. She says it's fine if he wants to go to Italy. She just wishes he'd told her. He's really sorry. He's just really confused. He gets a phone call. It's about the article. He says, I need to make things right, to whoever's on the other line. Cut to Colbie talking to her mom. Her mom understands Colbie is going through things, but encourages her to go to the ball and enjoy herself. Oh, and talk to Ben. Now it's time for the Holly Ball. Everyone has a good time. We see Ben looking for Colbie. Nowhere to be found. He starts to text her, but then chickens out. Just then, Colbie walks in looking all beautiful. Ben is all, wow. They don't talk anymore and then split up. Eloise gives a speech and thanks everyone for coming, for donating, and thanks Colbie for her hard work. Eventually, Colbie's boss comes by to talk to Colbie. She says she's done a great job. In fact, it's such a good job that she was talking to Eloise and they'd like to create an official partnership between the firm and the Chapman House. Yes, the famous Chapman House. And would like Colbie to lead that partnership. Oh, and also the board wants to offer her a partnership in the firm. Colbie is overwhelmed. This is when she finds out the article was edited to reflect Colbie's efforts. She goes to find Ben and does so out by the decorated archway with the mistletoe. Remember earlier when they almost kissed? This is that place. She tells him she couldn't have done any of this without him. He says, no, it was all you. She explains how his efforts to fix the article led to her getting a partnership. He says, well, I also got my new job, but I turned it down. I think I'd like to stay here. Eventually, they untangle the mess of what Colbie overheard, and then they kiss. It ends with Colbie saying, this is definitely a ball to remember. And that made me think there has to be a point where this movie was called A Ball to Remember. Anyway, that's the end of the movie. I did not think that this movie was very good. It wasn't the worst movie ever, but it wasn't a very good movie. You don't need to have so many dumb misunderstandings to make a movie work. Like the thing with the room, it feels like that was just designed to be a drama edition before they go to commercial, like if this was on TV. Colbie, there's a 6th room, and it's never really explained how there was. I'm guessing it's due to been being disorganized, because he's shown a few times to have been disorganized with various paperwork, and that he submitted like a different design agreement maybe from a prior year, and that somehow that got to her boss, but also the fact that her boss was so adamant that this was beyond the pale and terrible just felt like unnecessary addition to the story. So no, do not watch Designing Christmas with You. Who's the MVP of this movie? I don't know. I thought Colbie was fine. She had a nice singing voice in that one scene, so Colbie, you're the MVP. That's it for episode 39. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chilling. I hope you had a good time listening to this one. And if not, guess what? There's going to be another one around the corner. Take care and talk to you soon.